mechanically fit, or if, you know, if they're pumping too much water, whatever the case may be, we will comply with those requirements. Holding tanks, I mean, there's a lot of statements about how much, we're gonna be pumping, again, no facts to support that. Pervious surface, was stated that we're 7,600 square feet over. Our parking lot is much bigger than 7,600 square feet, we'll put in pervious pavement. There was, discussions about density. We meet the density requirements. Density for this parcel is defined by, the height restricted under the ordinance, it's defined by the setback requirements, and it's defined by the parking. We meet height, setback, and parking requirements. So we can build 68 units under the ordinance. There's a discussion about an environmental impact study. This isn't a law. There's no requirement anywhere in your ordinance that we have to get an environmental impact study. Again, these are just things that they're throwing out there. They said we need a business plan. Well, this is kind of odd. I mean, at one point in time, they're saying this hotel is going to be so wildly successful, you're going to have negative impacts on the lake. But then on the other hand, they're saying, well, this hotel is going to fail. So what is it? Are we going to fail, or are we going to be wildly successful? We will treat the runoff, regardless of what was said here tonight. The runoff will be better. With respect to the boat slips, again, you know, we are gonna comply with the DNR regulations. The DNR will regulate the number of slips and the number of boats which can be launched. So we will comply with it. We're not gonna overwhelm the lake. We have, you know, we may have 10 to 14 slips that are in existence already, and the boats being launched from those slips right now. So it's not like we're gonna overwhelm the lake. So I think that's it. Hey, John, Chris, do you have anything else? Yeah, thanks. That's it. That's all we have.
Thank you.
Dave, you got a question?
Well, number one, we talk about 68 rooms, is that a anticipated 2.5 occupancy? If that's the case, you're talking about 170 bodies. And if the usage of the water is 68 gallons a day per person, those numbers add up and probably validate the arguments that folks have had.
Do you want to, I'm sorry, do you want to ask the applicant that as a question, or you just?
Do you want to close the hearing?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I'm just wanting to know if you want to ask questions of the applicant, it's appropriate to do it now. It's appropriate to ask questions now before we close the hearing, and then you guys get to discuss. I'm just trying to figure out what you guys want, what step you want to take
I have
next.
another one question. You wanna wait until I go?
Well, you could bring him back up to the podium and ask him, like, if you have a series of questions, we can just ask the committee, or ask.
Or you want your questions for staff or for the,
No, but yeah.
okay. Go ahead and ask them then.
Yeah, if the applicant would come back up to the podium, the committee members can have some questions.
Sure.
And Dave, make sure you hit the microphone. We got people listening.
Can't look forward and speak backwards. The question I had was, if you had 68 rooms, is that with an anticipated 2.5 occupancy?
Yeah, somewhere, you know, our study shows about 2.1 to 2.2. So, but yeah, pretty darn close.
So we're talking a pretty substantial amount of population utilizing the facility. The other thing is, I think we as a committee dealing with zoning are always concerned with water consumption. Water is going to be a notorious issue for the people of Walworth County and the people of Wisconsin in the not too distant future. And to say that we would accept a high impact in one piece of this lake property seems kind of crazy to me. I'm not a hydrologist, but I live on a farm outside of Williams Bay. We have a well, and I can tell you it's a problem. Maybe not to the same extent that you have. I was on the village board in Williams Bay for 10, 12 years, and our wells had to go down in order to satisfy the seasonal population of municipality, like 1,300 feet. Now, Lake Beulah is pretty shallow. So what's the depth of this well? You know, offhand?
It's about, I think it's 160 feet? 310. 310, I'm sorry.
It's 310 feet, so
Yeah.
it goes into an aquifer?
It goes into a couple different aquifers.
Well, it just seems like there's too many components when you look at the traffic issue of getting people in and out, the lack of road structures, who's gonna reconstruct those roads for egress and egress, to satisfy that population buildup? Are you gonna do it as a developer, or is you gonna ask the township to do that, or?
Well, I'm not sure the roads would have to be rebuilt. I mean, there are many trucks that traverse those roads right now. There are bars and restaurants on the lake. There are large trucks that carry alcohol, beer, wine, whatever, to the bars. Those trucks are heavy. There's construction vehicles go over those roads right now. With respect to your question about the wells, again, we're gonna do the right thing. We'll meet with the county well people in charge of the wells, and we'll do what they suggest that we do. There is a high capacity well on Lake Beulah, and as I understand, there was a lawsuit about that high capacity well. It was ultimately determined, as I understand it, that high capacity well wasn't affecting the lake levels. And there's also a lot of water running into the lake from various sources. So it's something that, we can't sit here tonight and just, guess at. That's why we're gonna come to your well.
No, but you ask us, or suggest that everybody's throwing out speculative ideas,
Yes,
and they're contrary to your ideas, but your ideas are speculative as well.
correct. And we haven't studied it yet, but we will if when we come back to the county for a well permit, if that's what they want, then we'll do that.
My friends and associate on this board get frustrated with me because I always say money drives all issues. So if there was a compromise to be made and said you're gonna create a unit that's only 30 rooms, is that economically realistic?
I think we'd have to go back and look at that. I mean, it would be very tough. Cause you got the value of the land and that's spread out over fewer units. And you got all the infrastructure improvements, like the holding tanks and the well and everything that we have to do. And that's spread out over fewer units, so it would have to be studied. If your conclusion here tonight is, we don't know what we want to do, or, we're gonna deny this, maybe there's I don't know, it's all speculation, I don't know, I'd have to come back and study it. I mean, we picked 68 for a reason, and that's what we ran our numbers on, and it works. So I'm highly skeptical that 30 units would work, or 30 rooms would work. But I can't tell you right now, unfortunately.
Thank you.
This hearing is closed.
Mr. Chair,
Matt?
this is Jim.
Oh, Jim, I'm sorry.
Could I ask a question?
Yep.
Going back to the well issue, one of the things that was brought up during testimony was having some form of well guarantee. What is the applicant's take on that? If they're gonna use that much water and it pushes down the water table and their neighbors all of a sudden have to go deeper to get water, are they gonna be willing to support their neighbors if the wells go dry?
So, yes.
Yep.
Sure, you come back up?
The developer, if they can answer that question. And just before they go, when they say the hearing is closed, that means that they're gonna ask questions of the applicant, but once the hearing's closed, then the committee gets to talk, so it doesn't mean it's over. So the committee gets to decide what happens, so sit tight if you wanna see what happens. That, if they decide to act tonight, they can. If they wanna wait, they can do that as well. So there's the question from Supervisor Van
Yeah, so this is really the first time we're discussing a well guarantee. My first inclination is no. I mean, because how do you gauge whether we're drawing more water, or whether somebody else on the lake is drawing a lot more water because they change their use habits or there's other restaurants. I mean, we can't guarantee that, that the whole lake isn't gonna suffer some, something that we don't control. So I mean,
Well, in this case, you would be controlling it because you would be using the additional water capacity.
well, yeah, no, I don't think we'd be willing to do that.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
Well, Jerry Van Hessen,
Go ahead, Jerry.
I'm the same attorney. If you had said that you would comply with the county's wishes on amount of water drawn, so you're told you're drawing too much water, are you willing to comply with that, and how would you correct that?
Well, I believe you just answered no to that, right?
No, I think that's a different question.
All right, if you wanna come back up again.
Yes, just to clear things up, I'm not an attorney. I used to practice law many years ago, but haven't practiced law for 15 or 20
Right.
years. So just to clear that up. Yeah, we're gonna have to do a study. I think, when we go to the people within the county that regulate wells, we're gonna have to prove to whoever that is that we're not drawing down too much water. We're willing to do that. Our water usage isn't gonna be that great. And I think, again, there's a lot of speculation about the amount of water. But, yeah, we understand we might have to provide a study to the people who regulate the wells within the county here, and we will do that.
So you want the approval before you do the study?
Yes, we want approval from this committee, or this agency, with respect to the conditional use permit. This is the process we have to go through, and then, with respect to this agency, because you do the conditional use permit, then we're gonna go back, we're gonna, talk about the holding tanks and the private wells. And, I think that's a logical way to do it.
That answered.
Mr. Chair.
Does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Does answer my question. But has there been a survey taken to show that there is a shortage of motel rooms in this East Troy area?
Yeah, so we had a STAR report done, and that's a report, hotels turn in their information on a monthly basis, their occupancy levels, their room rates, ADRs, and things like that. All indications are that this hotel would be successful, and we wouldn't be spending this time and money to try to get something approved that wouldn't be successful.
Thank you.
Okay, another question?
Go ahead, Jim.
This one I think is for Mr. Cotter. There were two things that were brought up during testimony, one regarding them using R1 space as part of their footprint, and the other was related to parking in road right-of-way and whether that usage was grandfathered in. Do you have answers for those two questions?
Yeah, I think I can answer part of it, and then Matt will probably jump in on the parking. And I think the statements that were made was that the R1 and the business zone district, they're being used as a whole to get this property cited. So they're using, I think what was said by the attorney in opposition was that the R1 area was being used as a setback. I think that's true, but it's permitted under zoning to be used. That's an argument that they're making, but it complies with the zoning code as it sits. If that makes sense, it's kind of, they kind of both said the same thing in a way. They need that R1. If they didn't have that R1 space, they wouldn't be able to have the setbacks to put the building in. The attorneys are making the argument that therefore they're using R1 and it should be denied because that's using R1 ground to build a hotel. Does that make sense?
Yep,
Okay, and then Matt, I know that there's, the town made their statement about the parking in the road right of way. Do you wanna expand on that? Cause I know you had some thoughts on that as well.
Sure. When we reviewed this project for zoning purposes with regards to parking spaces, there's a section in the code that says if a parking space existed since 1974 in a commercial business area and has continued to be used as business area, it, as they stated, is grandfathered, basically with regards to the dimensions of the parking space and setbacks for the parking space. But there's two different things that are being said. The other thing is that the town has a dedicated road right-of-way now, for those roads, and there's 24 parking spaces that encroach into the town road right-of-way. That has nothing to do with whether or not it's exempt with regards to zoning. They need town approval if they want to put parking spaces in the town road right-of-way. And, sounds like the town potentially is not willing to let them have that.
All right, thank you.
I have a,
Gary?
that if the town does not give them that, then they don't have ample parking for that motel, is that correct?
By our calculations, they're short 9 parking spaces.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Well, I've sat and listened to both sides, and their previous efforts to bring things to this spot, and some of the testimony from the residents of the area that, desperately needed something, anything there. But it seems to me like they've come, just my impression is maybe you've come a little early. Your town is asking for a traffic study. The well is a big issue, but you don't really have an answer on that yet. And getting is it a hydrologist report? The holding tanks, there's questions about that. It seems to me like if you could work, I would like to see more more study or more evidence or report or whatever it is before making a decision like this. The town denied it and the lady on the phone stated her reasons. And it seems to me if you put this much time and this much effort and money and thought and everything into it, you should be looking at those things and bringing them forward with some of those answers for us before a decision was made. We'll handle that afterwards. We came to get this, but we'll look into that. Several times you've said that, well, we'll ask the county, or we'll look into that. I would feel more comfortable making a decision hearing some of those reports. I mean, how will the flow of the capacity of this well affect it? How will the traffic affect it? And to guarantee, little red flags went up when you're going to put in a high capacity well, but you're not willing to, guarantee or something like that. It's alarming. It's alarming for, I'm sure the people that live in that particular area, and as David stated earlier, water is going to be a big thing. It's on the horizon for Walworth County. I'm not an expert on wells. I don't know a whole lot about wells, but it would be nice to have some type of an official report or someone who's a specialist in it looking, how will this affect that area there? I mean, I have a farm, and I have a large capacity operation right across the street with, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cattle.
Make sure you're talking to the microphone.
And we have an agreement, with the well. We were concerned, they rent our land. That was a huge concern in our negotiations with them in renting our land. And we did studies and things like, and then we're just two people across the road from each other, you know? But we went to that expense to hire and look and get a report and everything else. So it seems to me like those would be some really important things that, well, obviously the town wanted, because that was one of the, 6, 7, 8 things that the lady listed. So that's just some thoughts that I have, concerns.
So we have one or two choices here, we make a motion, or you guys want video of it? And more information?
I don't think a video is necessary. I think we historically follow the lead of the townships. They do their evaluation and interrogation.
Hold the mic just a little bit closer, because I know we're being watched a lot.
Next, I gotta swallow it, huh?
You can hear you now.
I'm a businessman. I've been in business 52 years. I'm not opposed to somebody seeking an opportunity to develop a business. But here you've got a situation where you've got a beautiful lake. It's not a terribly large one, it is spring fed. I think the height of the water level is controlled by the new dam we put in on the north side. Is that right?
Correct.
That's part of it, yeah.
To take one parcel of land, as small as it is, and try and fluff it up to build it to meet some capacity need through water, septic, whatever, and road access, just seems like you're pushing the envelope. So, again, we've been very deliberate for quite a few years of following the lead of the townships to give them the respect that they earn. And I think I would move to follow that lead and move to deny. And the motion is, Matt, what's the motion?
No, you just made it.
Okay.
So a motion by Weber to deny, second by Kunke.
Second.
Jim? Somebody say
I
something?
was just gonna second it.
Oh, okay,